Everything you do comes out right, and all the girls, well, they spend the night. And when you watch your color TV, you see the show you want to see.
Now let's analyse the various techniques used in the mixdown process. Throughout this tape we'll be isolating the various instruments and vocals that were recorded on the original 24-track master, then describe the methods used to enhance these tracks before placing them in the final mix. Before the actual mixdown, we patched all the effects sends and returns so that we can always have immediate access to any one of them. It is usual to send all the reverbs from auxiliaries 1 through to 8, depending on the size of your console. If any more auxiliaries are needed, the signal can be sent to the buses, which are otherwise not used during the mixdown process. We'll use the most common method of working our way up from the rhythm section through to the vocals. It should be noted that it's a good idea to raise all the faders at the beginning of a session to preview the song a few times while soloing each of the tracks. This allows you to listen for any problems with noise, spill, bad drop-ins or level differences that can be dealt with later on. Here's how the song sounds with all the faders equally raised and no effects on any of the instruments.
Everything you do comes out right, and all the girls, well, they spend the night. And when you watch,
We'll now move on to the mix and deal with the drum kit first. Acoustically, the drums were recorded in a relatively live room with close miking on each drum, with 2 overhead microphones above the kit for cymbals. Here's how the kit sounds without any treatment. We'll now deal with the drums individually, starting up with the bass drum. To eliminate any of the spill feeding from the other drums, it's best to insert a gate into that channel. To avoid the gate reacting to any other alterations in the future, it's preferable to insert it between the tape return and the fader in. This results in the gate reacting consistently and not to any other equalization added on later. Now we'll do an A-B comparison by switching the gate in and out. Here's how it sounds without the gate. And now with the gate on. Now to tune the gate, using the threshold, attack and release times. We'll now adjust the threshold so the bass drum passes through evenly. In the case of the bass drum, it's necessary to use the fastest attack setting available. This applies to most of the percussive family. Here's how it sounds when we adjust the attack control from slow to fast. Now we'll adjust the release time to tighten up the end of the signal by moving it from slow to the faster setting. Now we'll hear the bass drum without the gate and with the gate set correctly. Now we're ready to move on to the equalizer. We need to add some fullness to the bottom end, so we'll adjust the lower frequencies. In this case, between 80 Hz and 120 Hz. It's a good idea to turn the attenuation on full and sweep the frequency select knob to find the most desirable area to work with. Here's an example of a frequency sweep in the low end. You may have noticed that the sweep was stopped at the best point, which in this case was 120 Hz. Now we'll take the attenuation back to the right level. Now we can move up to the lower mids. There's a frequency around 400 Hz that we need to eliminate, so we'll work on that. Again, we'll raise the attenuation and sweep through the frequencies. In this example, you'll hear the sweep stop at the undesirable frequency. Again, we stopped at the best point. Now we'll turn the attenuation back to a minus setting to get rid of that unwanted frequency. Let's move on to the higher mids. We want to add some brightness to the beater to get more click into the sound, or definition. To do this, it's best to look around the frequencies of 2 kHz to 5 kHz. Once again, we'll raise the attenuation and do a frequency sweep. The frequency found was 3 kHz. Now we'll put the attenuation back to the desired level. We won't bother with adding any equalization in the extreme high end, as there is no information in the bass drum sound that is worth treating. However, to add a touch more click, we've added 5 kHz, which is necessary for the bass drum to cut through when all the other instruments are in the mix. Now let's hear the bass drum as it was without the EQ and gate. And now with the EQ and gate in. Now let's move on to the snare drum. As with the bass drum, a gate has been inserted between the tape machine and the fader in on the console. The settings used on the gate are basically identical to those used on the bass drum, as the snare drum has the same percussive characteristics. As we showed before, here is the snare without the gate. You'll notice the spill from the rest of the kit. And here it is gated and without the spill. We should now work on the equalization to beef it up and brighten the snare quality. Let's work on the low end first. As before, we'll raise the attenuation and do a frequency sweep, stopping on the desired point. The selected frequency was 100 Hz. Now adjust the attenuation for the right amount of bottom end. We'll take out some mid-lows to eliminate the box-like sound. Again, a sweep with the attenuation up full. The frequency found here is 500 Hz. Again, we bring back the attenuation to the desired level. To get more attack out of the snare, let's move up to the higher mid frequencies and find the desirable setting with attenuation up. A good frequency was at 3.5 kilohertz. Now we'll lower the attenuation to fit. To get a crisper sound on the high end area, we'll adjust the EQ in the same manner. In this case, the frequency was at 9 kilohertz. Remember that all these frequencies are to be used as a guideline only, as they will vary from session to session. Now let's hear the snare drum as it was recorded without the EQ and the gate. And now we'll hear it with the EQ and gate in. Next we'll look at the hi-hat. Before we started equalizing, we chose to insert a high-pass filter at 350 Hz, as there are no usable frequencies below that point. This is the sound of the hi-hat before the high-pass filter. And here is the hi-hat after the high-pass filter is inserted. Also on the hi-hat, we chose to add at 12 kilohertz. This is the sound without 12 kilohertz and with 12 kilohertz. We found there was no need for gating the hi-hat. To refresh your memory, here is the hi-hat before it was equalized. And after equalizing. Now we can look at the overhead mics on the kit. As the producer required no tom-toms on this particular track, they were not mic'd during the recording session. For the overhead mics, we'll use a high-pass filter to eliminate any unwanted bottom end. Here's how one of the overhead tracks sound with a high-pass filter at 130 Hz. Now we can add some high EQ to brighten the cymbals, say around 14 kilohertz. It is common practice to insert the filters on most instruments prior to equalizing to eliminate the unwanted high and low end frequencies. Using the filter will make it possible to record more level onto tape, as each instrument is working within its restricted frequency. Now we can add some high EQ to brighten the cymbals, say around 14 kilohertz. Now to develop the stereo image, we'll pan the overhead to the left-hand side. As there are two overhead tracks, the next step is to treat the second track in the same manner and pan it to the right. You'll notice that there seems to be no center image, which does suggest that the console or the overhead mics were out of phase during the actual recording. To correct this problem, reverse the phase of one of the channels. Now listen to the overheads in phase. Then as they were out of phase. And now back in phase. In some productions, the overheads are intentionally left out of phase to leave space in the centre of the mix for other instruments. We can now balance the whole drum kit, starting with the bass drum. Now for the snare drum. And the hi-hat. And now the overheads. Just when you thought you were happy with the kit, the producer has asked for a much bigger room sound on the drums, and as usual, nothing is impossible. To achieve this effect, we'll need to send the kit to a reverb unit with a simulated room. A good way of finding the preferable reverb is to send too much to the device and work your way back to the right amount of level. At this stage, we'll use the snare drum for a reference. Let's start with a large room setting and hear the effect with the snare in a solo mode. We ended up choosing a reverb program with a room size of 13 meters, or 1.6 seconds, a pre-delay of 66 milliseconds, and a high-frequency cutoff at 20 kilohertz. The basic program was a large live room program, which we have modified. Here's the whole drum kit with reverb on the snare. For your reference, here's what the kit sounded like without the reverb on the snare. The producer here has decided to use the reverb. It is common to add reverb only to the snare drum and not to the rest of the kit, to keep the definition in the drum kit. At this point in time, let's hear the other instruments that aren't treated to check if the drum kit still fits into the flavour of the song. As the producer is now eating a pizza, we can finally work on the bass part. Here is the bass track off tape. You can hear a lot of background noise on it, so I'll need to insert a gate to clean it up. The gate settings are fast attack, 20 milliseconds hold, 10 milliseconds decay. This will give you a slight amount of click, which makes it appear to be tighter with the bass drum. The amount of click can be adjusted by using the threshold level. Let's now hear the bass without the gate. And now with the gate. The bass was played off a keyboard sample, so very little EQ was necessary. In this case, we added a fraction at 200 Hz and a fraction at 2.5 kHz. As the producer has now finished his pizza, there has been a request to add something more to the bass to give a rounder, fatter sound. At this stage, we can look at adding a chorus or flanged effect. This will be sent from a bus in the module and returned onto a stereo pair of faders further down the console. We used a stereo chorus with a modulation of 0.45 Hz and a touch of short reverb. We'll add these return faders to hear the effect on the bass. And here's the bass without the effect. And with the effect again. We should now pan these two faders in towards the center of the image so as to keep the bass close to the bass drum. Now that everyone's happy with the bass sound, we should mix it in perspective with the previously submixed drum kit. At this stage, it's advisable to group the bass with the drum kit, which is already mixed. We're now ready to work on the rest of the rhythm section. Let's move on to the extra percussion. On the recording, we have a shaker and a tambourine on separate tracks. Here, they are panned off the tape with the shaker panned left and the tambourine panned right. Both the tambourine and shaker were recorded using a peak limiter. This was set at a ratio of 8:1 with a fast attack time. This is to achieve an even level onto the tape. We've also used a high-pass filter on both tracks set at 300 Hz, with a boost of EQ at 10 kHz for brightness. Now let's listen to the two tracks without any EQ. Now we listen to the same two tracks with equalization. The percussion has been kept dry, or without reverb, to retain the definition. Now the percussion tracks need to be blended in with the present group mix of the bass and drums. We're ready now to move on to the keyboard tracks. There are 3 keyboards on the song, so we'll deal with the first one. We call it a bottle effect. Here's how it sounds off tape. There's no need for any reverb on this part, as the sound on the keyboard has it included. We're now going to mix the 3 keyboards relative to each other. The second keyboard is the organ patch. We need to add some warmth to this by adding 200 Hz and 800 Hz. Let's hear it with the EQ in. And with the EQ out. And once more with the EQ in. The next keyboard part is the bell sound. This was recorded using a multiple delay with a 50% feedback loop. Now we can blend the 3 keyboards relative to each other. The producer has asked that the bottles and organ be separated, so we'll pan them left and right. We'll also add some reverb to the bells. It's recommended to apply the same reverb that was used for the snare drum. Now we'll blend the 3 keyboards in with the rhythm section. At this stage of the mix, we should work on the guitar tracks. The first guitar is a clean riff played in 2-part harmony with a touch of amplifier reverb. Here is how it sounds off the tape. We've used a high-pass filter at 80 Hz and a low-pass filter at 12 kHz. We'll now sweep the EQ to find the bell-like quality of the electric guitar. The frequency we chose to boost is 1100 Hz. To smooth the sound out further, we also cut at 600 Hz and at 10 kHz. Let's now hear it again without the EQ. And now with the EQ. With the EQ in, we've added some unwanted noise. So we'll now gate the track. This gate will be inserted between the EQ section and the module line in. Here is the sound with the gate. The producer suggested that we widen the guitar riff. To get this effect, we'll pan the guitar to the left, then send it to a short delay of 25 milliseconds via an auxiliary and return it to a fader, which is then panned to the right-hand side. Let us now add this guitar to the rhythm section mix. The producer has decided that every second harmony of the guitar riff clashes with the keyboard riff and should now be omitted. This can be achieved by using automation or spot erasing every second riff. Let's hear the guitars now in the mix. Next, we have the distorted or fuzz guitars to work on. fuzz guitar was played twice, each time recorded on a separate track, and then panned left and right. No EQ was used during the recording or during the mixdown. We've added a touch of short reverb to give a small room-like feel, to simulate the same room as the drums. These guitars are used to create more body in the chorus. They shouldn't be obvious in the mix. Now let's hear them blended into the rhythm section. To keep the mix in perspective, all the channels should be muted and then added again one at a time to slightly rebalance the instrument levels. Usually during this time, the producer will make small changes to the equalization and effects, just to fine-tune the mix before adding the vocals. We are now ready to add the vocals to the final backing mix. The producer wants to deal with the background vocals first. Because the background vocals are few and far between, we wanted to sample one phrase. Now we're able to work faster with them in the mixdown. Here's a demonstration of that sample.
You wear the best. You wear the best. You wear the best. You wear the best.
We will add reverb to the background vocals after dealing with the lead vocal. Now we're ready for the lead vocal.
Right.
Here's how it sounds on the multitrack.
And all the girls, well, they spent the night. And when you watch your color TV,
To even out the vocals, we'll insert a compressor between the tape return and equalizer in, so it's even before it reaches the EQ. The compressor will be set at a ratio of 8:1, with a medium attack and release and a high threshold so it reacts only to the louder parts of the vocal. Prior to adding any reverb, we'll now deal with the equalization. There are no common guidelines for equalizing, as a vocal varies greatly with the individual. However, in this case, we boosted at 1 kHz, 3 kHz, and 13 kHz. Let's hear the voice with the EQ added.
Got to have you. You're so vain. You're self-thought.
And now without
You
the EQ.
believe in nothing that can be bought.
And once again with the EQ.
You wear the best money can buy.
Now we'll look
And
at
when
adding
you
some
find
repeated
what
delay
you're
effects.
looking
In order to
for,
match the time of the
and when
delays
you
with the tempo of the
think
song,
there's no
we use the
place to
standard
go,
formula for
I'm
delay
going
settings.
to a
That is 60,000 divided by the tempo of the song.
just for the night.
For example, if a song has a tempo of 120 beats per minute, a full note repeat would be 500 milliseconds, a half note would be 250 milliseconds, etc. Here's the vocal with the delay effect added.
Takes an end.
We now decrease the delay to an acceptable level.
That makes sense. And when you find what you're looking for, and when you think there's no place to go, I'm going to a minor key.
Reverb is the last thing to add. In this instance, a plate sound was preferred, the size being 34 meters or 1.6 seconds.
And when you watch your color TV,
We're now ready to put the vocals into the
see
final
the
mix,
show.
making fine adjustments along the way. This process takes several hours.
and when you find what you're looking for, and when you think there is no place to go, I'm going to a minor key, just for the night, you and me. I'm going to a minor key, just for the night, you and me. I've got to have you. You're so fine. You're so thought. You believe in nothing that can't be bought. You wear the best money can buy. You're always late, 'cause you never try. And when you find what you're looking for, and when think there is no place to go, I take just for life, I'm going to a minor key, just for the night, you and me. I've got to have you. I've got to have you. Oh, and when the story
Listen to the very final mix.
takes an end. Everything you do comes out right, and all the girls, well, they spend the night. And when you watch your color TV, you see the show you want to see. And when you
However, the producer, exercising his creative freedom, has decided to remix this track. Here is the final remix that was eventually released.
Everything you do comes out right, and all the girls, well, they spend the night. And when you watch your color TV, you see the show you want to see.
For those who are interested, the following microphones were used for this recording. On the kick drum, a Bayer M88. On the snare drum, a Shure SM57. On the hi-hat, an AKG C460. On the overheads, Shops CM1s. The bass was DI'd, the keyboards are DI'd. On the guitars, Electro Voice RE20 and a Neumann TLM 170. And the vocals used a Neumann TLM 172. The instruments used were drums, Premier drum kit with a Sonor snare, guitar was a Fender Stratocaster, a Korg 01 wave station, S1000 sampler, a Proteus 1 and a Roland by 550. Effects used were a TC2290 digital delay and sampler, Lexicon PCM70 reverb, a Lexicon 480L reverb, a Yamaha SPX 1000 multi-effects, an Eventide harmonizer, and the mix was mastered onto 3M 996 tape using Dolby SR noise reduction.